path of it. It says where it was in the sky, exact time, dates, and places.
What's the name of those documents, Gil?
All right.
Just so our listeners could look it up, because I know that people are going to ask me that after this if I don't give them a reference point.
Sure. It's one of the main one is the evaluation of Eastern and Western records of the supernova of 1054. And there's some other ones that are free. Let me see. Let me get this up here.
I
And
appreciate this. I know
it's
our audience will as well, so thank you.
Way at the beginning here. So, okay, here it is. This is the one that I was able to plot, and it's called the Reevaluation of Eastern Western Records of Supernova of 1054 from the Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies. Then there's this one right here, the Chinese guest star. This is what the Chinese called it. They also called it a fiery dragon, you see, of old, but it's called a guest star. And the Crab Nebula by Ho Ping Yang or Yok, whatever his name. And this is out of the New York Public Library. This article came before the other one, but they're almost identical. And
that's cool. I appreciate you showing that to us. This will give a lot of people an option now to look into that. So that's fascinating. I'm going to do more research on that as well.
You see, like right here, this is that first one I showed you. That paper, it shows you the Chinese above it. It shows the interpretation behind it. And when you take this, and it gives you, see, I converted what a Chinese inch was, okay, compared to imperial. And they measure things from the length of an arm, holding a ruler out, eyeing it, okay? So they said from this star right here, which is in Taurus, okay, 9.18 inches. So I can do this on a star chart because we know visually how many degrees stars are apart. So I can tell from there's already known data at the length of a person's arm what that would look like as far as inches. So I drew a circle here. And this object has to be on the ecliptic. You see this line that goes around. For it to cross Earth pathwise, has to be on the ecliptic. They saw this when the sun was just rising. It was just in front. It had a tail. So it was right here, right at the point right here. And they give the exact measurement. But when I go through all of the records and look at, say, I show looking down at from the polar north of the universe, which is it's called Nadar. You're looking down at the solar system. That's what this here view is. Along with the orbit, it shows where the object was at the time, and then this view right here is where it looked like on the sky. Following the Chinese, and we went through all of the records, and it gives us a segment of its course. And it was just absolutely astounding. For you to see an object 13 months coming in without a telescope and 13 months leaving, that has to be an extremely large object. That's over a year coming in and over a year leaving. So and then this is, a more easy way of referencing it. Then I came back and I plotted on what days other places have stated seeing objects, but they would only give general reference, like they may say in the morning or noon or evening, but they wouldn't say the constellation. So the only ones that would give us the exact points to better plot this is the Asian records. But I went ahead and it's included when all these other ones, like Rome saw it. at the death of a pope. Constant Constantinople and Turkey saw it. London saw it. Baghdad saw it. Rome, Miss Armenia, Ireland. It's dated, and these are just some of them. These are some of the records that I was able to find, but there's more.
Now,
So,
this is some of the most detailed accounts I've seen, Gil.
because most people look, it usually takes a team of astronomers working together. I was alone, so you have to. It would take, I spent 12, 14 hours a day processing the information, and then also doing the graphics to where it could be explained easier to people.
Well,
And
and for those that are listening to us, I'd just like to remind you, check out Gil's website, planet7x.net. Also, a fantastic YouTube channel, Planet 7X, on Facebook. Pick up the movie Planet 7X as well, because there's just so much information that's going to be in there that we probably won't have the time to cover here as well. So,
see, this is it's encyclopedia right here.
okay.
And this was in 1979, July 23rd. It states in there that the scientists at that time, remember, this was before 92 when they went silent. They said it was 4.7 billion years away. Well, when we reverse the exact model, the Chinese model on our orbit right here, look what we have, 4.67. Matter of fact, we have to add a year to that because I was estimating it being in 2016, but it probably would be 2017. So it's right on the mark. And this was in a missing encyclopedia. You can see here on another one right here. This is Science Digest of 1982, astronomy. They said between 4 to 7. Boy, they got big, didn't they? They separated the numbers. You saw how they had a point number on the other one, but this one they got 4 to 7 billion. Well, when we reverse it to the time frame, we get 4.3, or about 4.4 billion. So they're trying to stretch the numbers because they don't want to worry people. For some reason, areas were blacked out here, didn't handle this very well. Ames, okay, here's in the Ames research. The astronomers are so sure of a 10th planet that they think there's nothing left but to name it.
Let me ask you this too. Hasn't there been recently just a whole bunch of deaths with astronomers, and the majority of them, they say it's either a car wreck or some type of suicide? Have you heard about that?
Oh, yes, there's quite a few. We can't say for sure, but put it this way, I would say their life insurance premiums are going up right now on astronomers looking for Planet X. I would say.
Yeah, it's
they're
unfortunate.
It's just untimely for Dr. Harrington, who was not going to be quiet. He wrote papers. I wish I have his papers. Let's see if I have it. Someone is out there quoting him absolutely wrong just to make people think that it's the 3600 year. In his actual reports, he actually states, I think it's 1,019 years, I believe, I think it is.
Okay.
Let's see right here. This is the actual off his paper. Now, I give you the article right here, the number to look at, the date.
Uh-huh.
He did this in 1988. He died in 1993. Okay, he's given an estimate here, okay, because he hasn't spotted it yet. But according to the perturbations and everything, he's saying it's 1,019 years, not the 3,600 years that some people are claiming that Dr. Harrington said. He didn't say that. He never did. And he also says he roughly thinks it might be 4 to 6 times Earth's mass. You know,
Just
so
saying a lot of the same stuff you're hitting on.
yeah, I'm just a slightly larger, but since we don't know what material it's made out of, remember this object collided with Ceres and it destroyed a planet, and yet it survived to come back multiple times after that. That has to be either a steel object or something very close to that that is very large. Remember in the Bible, it talks about a very unusual incident that I cannot explain. It talks about this guy was cutting, he borrowed an axe to cut down a tree by a lake. And as he was cutting, the axe head loosened and it went into the lake. And then the prophet was there, he said, man, what I'm going to, this farmer was asking, like, what I'm going to do, I've lost this man's axe head. And the prophet said, watch, look. And the steel axe head floated a short while later. Now, I can't find the timing of this, but if, let's say this object is that dense, that it's metal, that the magnetic pull might be larger than what we'd expect. Well, what it did to the steel, it made it almost buoyant, less with less weight. It would be a very spooky event if all the sunken ships were buoyant at one time and come to the surface whenever this planet passes. That would freak out some people.
Yeah, are people going to turn into like zombies, such as what you see on TV, possibly because of the difference with the electromagnetic fields? Have you heard of that theory?
No, there'd probably be more violence, yes, but no, not exact. No, I'm not
Okay.
into the. Remember
The
how
zombie apocalypse.
yeah, the the remember humankind has lived through this before in the past. It's just that this time is going to be worse, and most people lost basic skills. They don't know how to butcher an animal from the field and cook it from scratch, or pick herbs, or survive off the land under difficult conditions. They're totally dependent on someone making it for them. So unless these people are in the right place at the right time, as the Bible says to be, they have very little chance. There's going to be a large population de decrease. It's happened in the past. Look, if you were to take normal genetics, or that's a wrong word, um, calculating human population growth, okay?
Okay.
We have equal to about 7 billion people right now, and if you reverse that, okay, and if you reverse that model to figure out how many people there would be, um, let's say if you just started with 2 people from right now and went back and started about 2,000 years ago, which is the time of Yeshua, you'd have trillions of people today with just normal, you know, numbers, not exaggerated numbers, trillions. We'd have to have massive amount of plagues, deaths, meteor showers, something that was taking place. Wars don't calculate for that, not to that extent.
Right.
So, so Earth, remember the Dark Ages?
Oh yeah.
This object passed twice to our unit. It didn't come close to Earth now. Remember, it only came close to Earth 3 to 4 times. But the other times that it came through our solar system, Earth is in a different month, and we may get a meteor shower 2 to 3 to 4 months later, just like this picture right here. Uh, let's see here, where there's a painting that shows fire from heaven coming down, and it's
You've
this
really
one right
got a
here.
nice layout on your presentation, Gil. I applaud you for that. You've put these together nicely.
But thank you. When I do give a presentation to people, uh, I can't expect them to be a skeptic exactly like what I was, and then I want to see something that is closest that we can get, to convince me that this is a real object. But you see this painting right here?
Mm-hmm.
It shows two comet-like objects in the heaven.
Right.
Well, Halley's comet passed during this time period. So you can explain that. This is during around the dark ages or so. So what's the other object? Now, Halley's comet does not cause earthquakes, famine, and meteor showers. And it doesn't snap trees in half. If you look at the trees in the middle of this, you can see that they're broken in half. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. You see the trees in the middle?
Oh, yeah.
You can see how the buildings are broken up. Some of them look like they might start on fire. You can see how they're broken right here. And you
Mm-hmm.
can see how the land is lifted up here. You can see a
Yeah.
fault right here.
Right.
You can see how the people are holding the belly like they're hungry or starving.
We're having a heart attack. Like this one guy's got his hand over his heart here. Huh.
Right. So, um,
The dogs are okay, though. They're eating the carcasses of the dead people.
yeah, they did in the dark age. It was documented about that. But Halley's comet does not cause these effects, but our planet does. Our planet does.
How old is
And
this painting?
it was estimated, let's see, wait, I got to go to the bottom around here. Around 1456.
Okay. Jeez.
It's during the dark. It passed twice during the dark age. This is where Europe had a lot of the meteor showers and stuff.
Okay.
And keep in mind they didn't have words for it. So but that's what set them back. It caused the plagues. Some of these were not the normal plague of disease. It was some of the plagues of what this thing caused. And so you have a combination of things that are going on. So um, there is data. It's whether or not we choose to look at it as add data. People tend to write off the ancient people as very not as intelligent, or I think we don't give them enough credit for the past. They had enough knowledge to know what was coming even at certain time. Remember, there's certain civilizations in around Turkey that went underground. This entire town went underground. They built cities underground.
That's right.
Well, a meteor shower would drive people underground. And this is a chart that I use for Revelation. This lower section is seal 6. If you follow the seals, that talks about what's going to happen right down here. And it says that 5 months later, seal 7, that's this one, where wormwood, a large meteor, is going to hit Earth, where Earth wobbles like a drunkard. In Isaiah right here, Are you able to read that?
Yes, the Earth is broken up. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Okay. This is because this large meteor is hitting us, and this is where he says the Earth is broken up, the Earth is split, the Earth is violently shaken, the Earth reels like a drunkard, it sways like a hut in the wind. Wouldn't that be an accurate description from space, looking at Earth being hit? If it was hit by a fiery mountain,
I mean, that's
literally.
pretty intense.
Now, if you read, uh, is it this one? I think it's this one right here. Let's throw it down. Let's see what it says. This is where it says the fish of the sea and the birds of heaven are having a problem. Beasts of the field. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it says face of earth is shaken. And there's another one. I don't have it on this particular.
Mountain shall be thrown down. That's
Yeah, I have another uh, um, on my newer one, another little scroll piece that talks about where night will become day and day will become night. That's literally talking about a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation. When you put those two together in the same sentence.
we're looking at what's going on right now in the current state of affairs, and with the news reports coming out and openly admitting that there is a Planet X out there, but they're given different locations on where it is. Where are some places in the U.S. that you feel would be safe for people to go to? Because most people aren't going to be able to make it out to Jerusalem, realistically.
Well, I don't really try to recommend that because people will seize on that. So I will have to pass on that. But the
Okay.
Bible clearly says nowhere on earth you should live on the coastline. Okay. I would say at least 100 to 200 miles away from the coast. Well, 150 at least. Um, Anywhere along the coast. And that includes the Great Lakes or any large body of water because when the earth starts to tilt, that water in those lakes are going to either move north or south, or it's going to, water wants to stand still while the crust is moving until it catches up to speed. So living by a large lake can be hazardous.
Be a lake or something. And then also, if the poles do shift, then some places that are currently cold are going to have a warmer climate at that specific time. Do you think that having a year's supply of food is good? 6 months, longer than that? What would you recommend?
Well, if they don't plan to be on Mr. Jerusalem, then they have to try to make it through the Great Tribulation,
Okay, and you said
which
that's three
is
and a half years, right?
3.5 years plus this 1 year right now that you're supposed to have as well, because they're going to start rationing food. So you can't buy your food after rationing because it doesn't matter how much money they're not allowing it. So you have to buy it before the bail-in happens.
Okay.
Uh, so um,
And you think that's going to happen? The bail-in, are you referring to like similar to what happened back in 2008?
no, I'm saying we haven't seen anything like what's fixing to come here.
Like Depression, early 1930s style or 1920s?
I would say um, more encompassing. That was just more or less local. We're talking about global uh, bail-in almost. Anything financial because it's a global system today. We have global markets.
Indeed.
Uh, so we haven't seen anything like what's fixing to come here. I can. One of the things we can talk about. I don't think we talked about, did we? About the Nibiru disk.
No. No, this is new to me.
This is a artifact that was found by some treasure hunters that was illegally hunting for treasure. Uh, ancient ancient artifacts. And they found this. They tried to sell it on the black market, and they were caught. And what this ended up being is the oldest documented um, event in the sky with this star pattern, moon, sun, and everything. It goes back over 3,000 years or more. It goes down. It goes all the way back to the time of Joseph of Egypt. And this is the oldest artifact in Europe. It was found roughly, let me see, I'll show you this, in Nibiru colony, which is about 20 miles away from Gothic, Germany, right down here.
Okay.
And why is Gothic important? Because they have the oldest observatory in Europe right here. I believe that this was built at this observatory. It's only 1 day's walk away. Okay. So, and there's certain characteristics on this disc that match this area. Like this, you see this, they had built a dam right here in this area right here.
Okay.
So they rerouted the river. The old river went down here, right next to the town. Okay, where that red line is. Well, that is this curvature at the bottom right here. This was the um, horizon in front of the viewers at this observation hill right here. This is a hill. So they were able to see the river. So they put this right here, meaning the river. This is the western horizon here, and this is the eastern. And then what they did right here is they put these dots on this bronze plate representing the constellations and planets. Well, right here is Gemini. Right here is Capricorn. And here's an easy one to spot, which is the Seven Sisters, which is called Pleiades. And then this is the constellation Orion. Well, this is the sun. You can't see stars out if the sun's out unless it's in an eclipse mode. But the problem with that is the experts fail to miss that it shows the moon in a crescent shape. The experts saying that this is a normal eclipse. It takes a full moon, a new moon, which is totally darkened, to cover and darken the sun. You cannot use a crescent shape, because keep in mind that the illuminated side has to face the sun. This moon is facing the wrong direction. The illuminated side has to be flipped over. So that tells you it's either to the right or to the left of the sun. It's not in front of it for you to have a crescent shape. And that changes the day that this is referencing to. From, I think, a 6th day is what they estimated. Actually, it's 22 and a half days later. So they're looking at the wrong time frame according to the crescent. And so when you correctly determine this, you end up getting an exact date because of these planets right in here. They're like a Swiss watch, and that gives you this date right in here. Let's see if I have it here. Right here, there it is. The software gives us a date of April 6, 1810 BCE. But remember, I was telling you how the year got extended during Hezekiah? It was documented through many of the civilizations that the calendar changed from 360 to 365 and a quarter day year. Well, the software doesn't compensate for the year going back to 360. So you have to subtract 16 years from that. That gives you April 6, 1794. Well, that gives you the exact time of the mid of drought of Joseph of Egypt, which was documented by the Germans in Europe.
Huh.
And remember Joseph, when he said he had a dream that God showed him at age 17? that someday the skies will bow to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was interpreted as if it was his entire family that was going to bow to him, like he was going to be a superior or a supervisor or somebody of some importance.
Okay.
Well, he wasn't in Egypt until he was 40. I mean, when this thing passed, he was around 40 years old. And let me see if I have a and right here, this is Germany, the latitude of Germany. For Germany to see this constellation right here, Orion, you see this red line across the top?
Yeah.
That's the latitude of Germany. That's all that they can see. They can't see this constellation. Not until you get to Luxor, Egypt, you can see it. Which means Earth tilted 26 degrees. And so Joseph, during the nighttime sky, he tilted 26 degrees. And what did it look to him? Like the skies bowed to him, literally. His dream at age 17 came true at age 40. And that was mid of the 7-year drought. You had 3.5-year drought coming in and 3.5-year drought as it was leaving.
Huh. That's an interesting chart that you've got there. Now, yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, what I brought up. That specific symbol right there in the center looks kind of like what you were showing us earlier in the presentation.
Well, you see how this disc right here is in the middle of horns?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me show you the relationship to that.
Earlier in the presentation.
Well, you see how this disc right here is in the middle of horns?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me show you the relationship to that. Here's Taurus. This planet is in Taurus.
Okay. And then it's
During
got
the
the
time,
horns.
during the time that's what they were showing.
Okay.
Because they had their own constellation markers as well. That's throughout their tombs, even in some of their tombs, some of their writing, they show all of these. They learned it from maybe the Hebrews. The Hebrews had it a long time back, how to interpret. So, and then first it was a winged disc, okay, right here, this with a wing. Then later on, there's some sort of creature, okay. You see this thing in his hand? That's a key to the underworld. Okay, a lot of death happening or hiding underground, a key to the underworld. Then later on, the royal family want to be just as powerful as the gods. So they made themselves with these symbols, showing that they are kin or relatives to the god. Through time, the authority figures linked themselves to it so they could rule over the peasants. As they're doing today.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the pharaohs of yesterday, previously thousands of years ago, these that had these like cone head type shaped skulls. Now, obviously, they found that some of them were done self-inflicted, but I'm not convinced on all of them. Do you think that there's a possibility that this planet X or Nibiru has life on it, and that could be the connection with the Book of Enoch and the fallen angels and the Watchers that's discussed?
See, if you mix the two, then you're mixing data in a way. One's false, one is true. Remember, Enoch's telling you they never left Earth. They're here. Fallen angels, if you want to call them that, messengers, the word angel means messengers, were put on Earth. And they've been living here with us as the word Elohim. Remember how it says they're the fallen sons of God? Well, that word is Elohim, and Elohim doesn't mean G-O-D, it means authority figure. They were because there's only one son of God, not multiple. They were the sons of an authority figure that fell, the messengers. They're still here today in some form or fashion because the Bible tells us they rule over us in a way, in the background. Now, Mars there's scientists call this Goldilocks zone where Earth is. It's exactly the right distance to have water in the different states that it needs to have life. Mars is too far away. It's on the edge. It probably won't. It'd be difficult. So an object that far in space, that deep, no, I don't expect life to be there. And it passes so close to the sun, it would boil lead almost. So I don't see it happening.
Okay.
But that's what they want to pass off, though, to you. Von Braun said that.
So that's the deceiver, basically, or that's the way to make
Exactly.
it as if, okay, well, we're so far away, we only come around every 3,600 years, so don't worry, it's okay.
Exactly. That's the deceiver. That's what they do. They deceive. Remember, I was showing you these right here.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they deceiving the public right there that they're relatives to this mighty uh, object? The pharaohs and the queens were saying that they're basically a relative to that they came from this planet and that they're the chosen ones. History repeats itself.
Yes, it does.
That's all it does. You just have to understand history a little bit better. But history repeats itself.
It's just more technologically advanced now. I asked earlier, do you think it's going to be like the Depression? I mean, it's going to be more of 1984, except for the advanced technology is even beyond that now. So if they want to clamp down on things, there might be some, there's always that talk of the mark of the beast, Gil, and people are like, well, I'm not going to take the chip. And I'm sure many people won't, but if they really wanted to, they could put some type of tracking device on us now. They can track people by their heat signatures, their voice fluctuations, their walk, their stride. I mean, there's so many different ways to track individuals, and with the supercomputers and algorithms that can run quadrillions of floating points per second, it's pretty easy to predict future outcomes of people. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they start to clamp down on personal freedoms and declare martial law. So
remember, Bush gave a comment one time. He said, if America wanted to send troops with their full technical gear, when they would land in Iraq, they would be considered almost aliens. The people would think that they were aliens with the super technology gear they had on. He said that. I didn't. He said it.
Sure.
You haven't seen the high-tech equipment yet. You haven't seen it yet.
Well, I mean, they've got space tech weapons. Remember when China wasn't playing ball with the global market and they kept lowering the value of the yen? So what happened? Boom! That enormous explosion at one of the chemical plants. The official version was, oh, well, the chemicals got mixed together and it caused these. Do you remember there was hundreds of those 42-foot containers?
Yeah, but it wasn't one chemical. It was like 3 or 4 that went off.
Well, it better have been 3 or 4 million. I mean, that was like nuclear or something. I don't know about nuclear, but they had a lot of speculation that it was some of that new space tech weaponry called the Rod of God that uses these directed energy weapons from space. I mean, it certainly didn't look like a chemical weapon unless they were building bombs in that facility. Did you see the pictures? I mean, there were hundreds of those containers that were they were thrown around like twigs in a tornado.
Yes. And it was more than one. That's why, just like you, I was kind of. It's very unique that at least three went off within a week.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The one plant in Japan too, huh, Gil?
I think all 3 were in China. I think Japan came later, but yeah. In other words, whoever doesn't want to play ball with the globalists, they will make sure you do, one way or another. Some of these people don't want to play nice in the sandbox. Well, there's a bully in it, and they're. It's going to be difficult for the average human, average person coming up. I'm all for following what the biblical data is telling me to do and where to be. These are not vain religious acts. It has nothing to do with that. It's actually hard data, meaning everything he told us, even down to what foods to eat, is designed for your benefit.
About,
And
don't they talk in the Old Testament like you're supposed to shave with a dull blade and stuff like that too, though? I mean, that's kind of.
it might be translated. I'm not quite sure about that comment. That's the first time I hear that. But so far, anytime I find a something that stands out that you can't make sense, first thing I do is I turn to the Hebrew or the Aramaic or some ancient writing and look at it from that point of view on that period of time. You have to have a mindset. This is a Eastern text written by Hebrews with their own set of customs. And you have to get in that mindset before you even read it. So I had to learn a little bit about Paleo Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, before I got to modern Hebrew, because that's where I could recognize what was being said. You got to do the walk. Without the walk, you're like a blind man with a cane. Very difficult for you to find your way.
That's a good point. Now, so the Joseph of Egypt, that's the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of drought. Um, what other have you found accounts like in Native American, the Native American accounts besides the Hopi prophecy with the red kachina? Have there been other ancient texts as well?
Yes, there's numerous ones, but they don't have the hard data. That's why I'm not using them.
Okay.
But I can see where, just like the Mayans. Let's see here. We'll go to Mayans for a moment.
And you think that there are cycles that they talked about, as well as the end of the cycle at 2012, had something to do with Planet X, or is that completely different?
Well, I'll let you make up your own mind which ones I point point this out.
Okay.
Okay, this is where the Aztecs and the Mayans were living in that area of Mexico, and if you take a look at their calendar and you look on the outside rim right here, all on the outside rim right here, you see this right here? Take a close look at it. Now, keep in mind this is carved in rock.
Looks like Space Invaders.
It could be, but to me, I kind of recognize that almost like a comet. You got the core,
Uh huh.
and you have, the tail of a comet, then possibly some meteors in the background or whatever.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the dots mean. Not sure, but when you pair these as an entry and exit, I come up with almost the same amount of times since the Mayans were alive and when they were keeping record, going back to Noah's flood. So the last, they have different counts. One of them that's talked about is a Baktun, but they had different lengths of counts. And then, so they just picked a Baktun and said, well, this was part of the count, but they didn't tell the public about their other counts. Well, the last one they had, yes, it was a Baktun, a unit of measure. Guess what? That happens to be exactly the length of time between when Constantine seen it and when the Mayans went through their severe drought, where about 80 to 90% of the population died because they couldn't support the crops and the water table dropped. So exactly what a Baktun was, 395 years apart, because we know when Constantine, because it's documented in history. That's what Constantine saw. He saw this star rounding the sun, and he documented it. This was our planet coming out. It makes a star like a starburst, and it's throughout history if you look.
Jeez. I mean, just building all these nuclear reactors, just absolutely stupid. Because with these type of events, there's no way to protect them.
Absolutely correct. That's like Murphy's Law. Um, they didn't plan for a major disaster of this type. We should never have built them, but I think the adversaries wanted that built. Remember, the adversaries I'm talking about is the fallen angels,
Yeah.
because their job is to eliminate the seed of humans. It's not here to benefit them. They just want a slave race. Isn't that what they talk about on the stones even? That's enough to serve them.
It's
Um,
the stones are interesting, Gil. If you actually read them, except for a couple of things in there, I mean, it sounds pretty good. It's like, okay, have peace and balance with nature. Make sure to help others, kind of thing. Create a harmonious language so everybody will understand each other. So, I mean, there was some pretty cool things there, but of course, at the very first, they have to say no more than 500 million people.
yeah. Yeah, well, didn't Hitler say a very cool thing for most of his people that jumped on the bandwagon? And then when he started doing horrible things, it was too late to stop him.
Right.
Don't they
Absolutely.
entice you always with nice things?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, take a look at this picture here that I'm showing you. That picture to the right there is one that I took in China when I was there, off of a bronze bell. Okay. This is the fiery dragon. You see the clouds behind.
Mm-hmm.
You see this planet in the middle. It has lightning coming off of it. Okay. And this is fiery dragon of old, according to Chinese. You see how they're astronomical units? They had dragons on the corner
Yeah.
because they were paid astronomers. They wanted to know when this thing was coming so the kingdom could buy food from the neighbors and stock up, just like our own government's doing right now. They're stocking food.
Amongst other things, food, seeds, water, ammunition, cardboard cutouts of grandma with a handgun.
Um, Homeland Security bought enough ammunition um, to have a war equal to Iraq for 35 years.
Isn't that interesting?
So um, I guess they just want to have it in case, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't have anything else to spend the money on, so I figured buying that much ammunition would be a good idea.
Yep,
Looks like the Predator with the tail, that one dragon picture you got there. Chinese
this
guest
one.
star, 1050. Yeah, yeah. Remember the movie The Predator?
Yeah,
The face right there, and then it's got the dragon tail. That's a really neat picture.
yeah, that was off of a bronze bell that was extremely old, and it goes back many, 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 many centuries. They've been tracking it. This is why the Mayans were so interested in tracking. This is why the Chinese were so interested, because of the devastating droughts and meteor showers and everything. They wanted to know so they could prepare. And that's exactly what our own government is doing, and the Vatican is doing, and other governments are doing. They're monitoring. They want to know when it's coming back.
Do you think that's why they named that telescope Lucifer? The Vatican did.
Well, the actual word in Greek for Lucifer was uh, illuminated one. Um, that's not actually the name of Satan. If you can actually find the name of that, I think in the book of Jasher or Enoch, one of those books that are outside the Bible, it gives the literal name of the fallen angels, and there are
Not the
12
Lesser Key of
commandments.
Solomon. Not the
What's
Lesser
that?
Keys of Solomon, right? Those are the 72 Lesser Keys, the lower entities that some say are fallen angels or demons.
I don't know. I don't know. I never heard that term used before,
Okay.
so I can't comment on it. But it's stated in the books that are outside the Bible to get the Book of Enoch or the Book of Jasher or Jubilee and all of them. So if you go back to the original meaning, often this stuff is talking because this planet is also can be called. Remember, the word Satan means adversary.
Uh huh. True.
Okay, so when you bring Hebrew back to the original meaning, this planet is an adversary against Earth. Okay, as they look because it shows movement, they think it's somewhat alive. You know, it has movement. So in their terms of using Hebrew, they would say it's an adversary. Okay, a mighty adversary, they call it the mighty one as well. Uh, that's why so many cultures put it in a high position as a god of some form. Um, but not to be mixed up with the creator now. The, the the creator that created this, paganism is one who is worshiping part of the creation and not the creator. Okay, that's the difference between paganism. And many of pagan gods were named after this planet. Zeus, it was talked about. Uh, Zeus could throw lightning bolts that would melt mountains. Well, we have part of a mountain melted in Africa over there, and it's called um, the Eye of the Sahara, and that is one uh, massive crater. It's 30 miles across. It's flat, and it's proven that it's not uh, part of a meteor crater, if I can find it.
Have you been waking a lot of people up? Have you noticed that over the past 6 months to a year, people are more accepting to this?
Yes, because no one else can. People are not. They just like the people of Nineveh. Jonah didn't create one miracle, but yet he was able to convince that whole town to repent in a very serious way because they didn't have internet, they didn't have TV, they didn't have any of the distractions. They were in tune with nature. They saw bird kills, fish kills, seasonal change, crops dying, earthquakes probably, sinkholes, weird seasonal patterns, extreme cold, extreme hot. Okay, they knew things were out of whack. They saw animals acting strangely, you know. And then Jonah comes up and says, "Look, that object up there in the sky." He points to it. It says, "In 40 days, your doom comes. Re- repent." And what God did is He changed it to where it passed to the left of Earth instead of to the right of Earth. Otherwise, it would cause a meteor that would have took out Nineveh. It passed to the left of. Remember in Hezekiah, it
Right.
passed to the left. It causes a tilt. The Earth never stopped rotating. If it passed to the right, it will go through the plasma tail. If it passed to the left, the plasma tail is pointing opposite of the sun. So the rotation of the Earth doesn't stop, but it passed close enough to cause us to tilt. And the tilt can happen on either side of it passing, depending on how close it comes. This next time, it's going to pass to the right of us, and it will cause us to tilt, and it will also cause us to slow down by 12 hours. We're having multiple combinations that's going to happen instead of just one or two of these. All the data in the Bible is pointing to us having uh, a multiple combination of some very bad things. We will see 30 mile across lightning strikes like this one here, which is a lightning bolt between that planet and us, which made that hit the Earth, and it dissolved almost 300 foot of a mountain and made this flat circular crater, and that's a 30-mile lightning bolt across. Now, when Earth is hit at that, it will reverse our north and south magnetic poles. When lightning hits a magnet, the magnetic fields reverse. So depending on how many times this planet will hit us with lightning or with the plasma, with a plasma bolt, is the way I would put it. That would determine how many times our magnetic field would switch. And you can see what this, you see down here, Mars, right here?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that little dot where I got my X? I'm going to move it, but right where that arrow is pointing, there's a
Yes.
rock, there's a small rock in space called a comet. That little fragment caused this for Mars to light up. You see the way it did. That small comet did that amount of strike on the planet of Mars. What do you think of a rock that's 7 times larger than Earth? What type of event's going to happen to Earth?
It's going to be catastrophic if it gets close and people don't prepare. I mean, certainly a lot's going to take place if this goes down.
You follow his instructions. He said on a Sabbath and a Jubilee. The Sabbath's already been finished. We're starting a Jubilee. He says, prepare 1 year of food and supplies for that year, because that's so you don't have to stand in line at a food line or anything. And when it comes time, you see a peace agreement signed. Terrorism is going to stop, and they're going to force Israel to give up the West Bank. Well, they'll have 40 days to clear off 450,000 Jews off the West Bank. You make your way to Jerusalem at that time. There'll be 2 prophets that show up on the Feast of Passover. 3.5 days later is when Yeshua is going to show up. That will be exactly the time when this planet is crossing Earth's path. When the other side of Earth is getting hit by meteor showers, and the side that he's on, which is the nighttime side, they were told by astronomers they were going to be hit. So the majority of the people are underground. Only his people are above ground. And he brings them to a place of safety in the wilderness. Wilderness has never been referred to heaven, or vice versa. He's clearly saying, I will put you in a place of safety. And the reason why is because you're going to be on earth. You're going to realize how powerful God is, because he's going to shake the ground under you like you've never seen it before. You'll see lightning strikes. You'll see the aurora borealis come all the way to the equator from both poles. It'll howl like a trumpet. It may even be deafening almost on how loud it might be. You'll hear the ground mold, the earth moaning as the continents are shifting. You feel earth tilt. You hear about the waves and the high winds. You hear about it, but you won't be as affected. You have mild winds. You'll see your sinkholes will happen around you, but you won't be hurt. Extreme stuff. And that's when you know that the Father is in total control, and he gave you a promise that he'll protect you on the ones who showed up, because they're following his literal instructions. These are not vain religious acts. They're literal instructions. But for a wicked and adulterous world, most would not heed his words.